Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 54 based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu knew the ability of Blind's Godmind's eyes very well, therefore, he was long used to it. Even though Blind's eyes can't see, what he can see was much more than the others. He stood up and looked into the distance. There were still rays of golden light surrounding that mountain, as they revolved around it. The green bull sprinted with all his might, and got closer and closer to that mountain. Not long later, the rays of light became thicker and thicker as they floated to and fro around the mountain like streamers surrounding the mountain. When they got even closer, they could see numerous things in the golden lights. Those were the divine arts of the shaman kings, and there were curved knives hidden within the golden lights. In some golden lights, there were golden humans, and in others, there were golden dragons rolling inside. The power of the shaman kings was astonishing, and only shamans, who had cultivated to celestial being realm, could be known as shaman kings. However, Roland's golden palace was the sacred ground of the Great Wall after all. Those shaman kings that had given chase were mostly of life and death realm, and there was even a cult master level existence that was on divine bridge realm. The green bull sprinted forward, and was only 3 miles away from that mountain. Qin Mu took another look and saw that there was a shaman king in each of the 8 directions around the mountain. The bird-head human body shaman king on the east was holding onto a circular mirror. That mirror was strange, and had 12 snow-white bones growing out from the mirror. With the mirror in his hand, a ray of golden light shone from the mirror. The leopard-head human body shaman king on the west had a scepter in his hand. On the top of the scepter, there was something like a tail wrapping around the scepter, which was currently moving. It was as long as the scepter. Meanwhile, on the tip of the scepter, there was a golden skull that was shooting out golden lights from its eyes. On the south side, there was a 3-headed golden man. He had 3 wolves' heads. On the north side, the shaman king had a human head and 2 wings on his back. Golden swords continued to grow out from both of the wings, and turned into sword currents, which attacked towards the center of the mountain. Meanwhile, the shaman kings on the southeast, southwest, northeast, northwest were also of all shapes and sizes. There were some that grew a beast head and 8 arms, some that grew 6 legs, some that grew wings, some that grew more eyes and even had eyes on their palms. Even though Qin Mu had seen Grand Shaman Ruda scriptures, he couldn't help exclaiming in admiration at the weirdness and power of this technique, as he looked at such a scene. At the middle of the mountain, knife light slashed vertically and horizontally to block the divine arts that were coming in all directions. Huge rocks came falling down time to time from the top of the mountain. The rocks were as big as courtyard houses. In this situation, people couldn't recognize them clearly from far away. They could roughly see items like dust falling down, and only when they came close could they only know how huge those clouds of dust were. The mountain was already shaved into a bare pillar by the divine arts of Chancellor Ba Shan and the 8 shaman kings. Only the top of the mountain where Chancellor Ba Shan was standing on still had some greenery left. Butcher took a look and gave a sigh of relief before smiling. Big Mouth still isn't dead. Let us return. Qin Mu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The green bull rushed forward with even more vigor. Before they had yet to reach the bottom of the mountain, Butcher suddenly rose into the air and a knife light split the sky with an incomparable brightness. Qin Mu raised his head to take a look and felt that it turned darker after the light disappeared. It was as if the light was too bright and left a knife mark in their eyes, yet it also looked like it was too sharp and had sliced open the sky. He couldn't determine which one it was. Heaven Khan! An astonished cry sounded out as a human head fell from the sky. There was also a headless shaman king still flapping his bird wings in the sky, shining his golden light everywhere. It was human head bird body shaman king on the north. Among all of the shaman kings present, only he was the cult master level existence of divine bridge realm, yet he was assassinated by Butcher when he closed in on him and killed him with a knife. Butcher was from the battle technique school, and one could well imagine what would happen if he closed in on someone. Butcher landed steadily on the back of the green bull and ordered it, "Your old master's fine now, he'll just have to suffer a little more injuries, and he will be able to slaughter his way out. Green Bull, bring us to Roland's golden palace. The Green Bull hesitated and asked, aren't old master going to rescue old master? Old master always talked about how good you were. Why should I rescue him? For him to annoy me. Butcher shook his head. It was very peaceful for me when I stayed in the village for the past few years. When I think of getting nagged by this guy, my headache would act up. You should go as I ordered. If you continue to be long-winded, we'll have beef tonight. Do you know what's my job in the village? The Green Bull shuddered in fear and dared not to say a word. This bull was very clever, and had long realized he was a butcher that slaughtered pigs and cows. Master! Chancellor Ba Shan's voice came from the mountaintop, and it was obvious he was injured since his breath was inadequate. He cried out in surprise, Master, it is you. I knew you didn't die. You had left me behind in eternal peace for so many years, and ran away yourself to live a carefree life. How are you going to make up to me? I have a lot of things to tell you. Quickly run, Butcher said. The Green Bull immediately ran towards the direction of Roland's golden palace. Chancellor Ba Shan was about to rush out of that mountain when he got suppressed by the other 7 shaman kings, making him have no choice but to go back to the mountain. The 7 shaman kings now felt they were holding a wolf by the ears. The 8 of them had worked together to suppress Chancellor Ba Shan, and had decided to refine him to death. Never did they expect that Heaven Khan, who was rumored to have died many years ago, to resurface, and killed the strongest shaman king among them with a knife. They had originally thought that Heaven Khan would make a move on them, and Chancellor Ba Shan's spirits were raised as he used his strongest attacks to delay them, making them unable to run, scaring them out of their wits. And now, Heaven Khan had actually left Chancellor Ba Shan here and escaped on a bull. Chancellor Ba Shan was also at a total loss. Suddenly, he came to the realization and started to curse the old man. It took the Green Bull almost half a day to bring them back to the weak waters. Butcher looked at Blind and said, Blind, you and Mua shall accompany me up the mountain. Now that my lower body is missing, I can't win that old fellow. All right. Blind jumped down from the back of the bull. Qin Mu made Ling Yuxiu, who Linga and the Green Bull stay, and said, we'll be right back. Ling Yuxiu nodded her head, be careful. Butcher came to the front of the weak waters lake and shook his head. Ba Shan, this brat still hasn't improved after all these years. He couldn't even move this lake away. He took in a deep breath, and the trio behind him couldn't help becoming dumbstruck. They saw the surroundings surging like a gathering storm towards this elder in front of them, who only had the upper half of his body. Even the clouds in the sky were swept over by the surging gale. The prairie had a high elevation and the clouds were much lower. Even so, they were also 10,000 feet above them, and this elder was so overpowered that he actually managed to suck all the white clouds in the sky into his stomach in one breath. This is the legendary strongest practitioner of the battle techniques school. Ling Yuxiu's mind shuddered. Ever since Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor gathered all the strong practitioners of battle techniques school to discuss Tao, the strong practitioners of the battle techniques had either died or escaped, and there were also some who went into seclusion. However, after that discourse, there were no more strong practitioners standing at the pinnacle of battle techniques. The flesh body was what battle techniques school was strong in. There was a similar trait in all of the top battle techniques practitioners, which was one part of their bodies had already become a god. He had no need to deliberately execute divine art, as every motion they did was a divine art. It was obvious that this elder who only had his upper body was such an existence. Butcher took in a deep breath, and completely sucked in all the clouds in the surroundings, before giving out a blow. Whoosh! The weak waters lake in front of them was suddenly lifted up, and the waves grew higher and higher, as though a sea had become vertical. The vertical sea rapidly retreated, and was literally blown into the snow mountains in an instant, filling up all the valleys in the snow mountains. In front of them, the lake was dried and even the bones in the lake were blown away. Even though the bottom of the lake was still slightly wet, there was no mud as the mud was scraped off cleanly. Qin Mu opened his heaven's eyes to have a look, and he saw that the veil-covering lake had also vanished, without a trace left from Butcher's breath. The top experts of the battle techniques school didn't know the spell divine arts to change the land, but with such an incomparably strong body which could change the land and weather, why do they need spell divine arts? If one could have the body of the battle techniques school, the sword mastery of sword control school, and the divine arts of spells school, won't they be invincible? Qin Mu blinked his eyes and followed after Butcher. What he cultivated was Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, and this technique was good in everything. It was just that this technique had no divine arts, no body refinement techniques, and no sword skills. It was also because he was cultivating Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. Butcher didn't impart his body refinement technique to him so as not to hold back his advancement in cultivation. Actually, everyone in the village had his own unique technique, but none of them had taught it to him. Roland's golden palace broke into a commotion when they saw Butcher blowing away the weak waters lake in front of Roland's golden palace in a breath. How could such an unimaginably exceptional divine art not make the hearts of the shaman kings tremble? In front of the sacred hall, Grand Shaman stood there with his scepter. 2 rays of golden light shone out from his eyes and landed on the 3 people who were walking on the bottom of the lake, causing his eyes to twitch. He was the cult leader of the Golden Palace. Because he envied Butcher's strong body, after he knew Butcher got cut down by raising his knife towards the heavens, he infiltrated Eternal Peace and exterminated that small sect which had snatched Butcher's lower body. He knew very well that Butcher's body surpassed his body, therefore, he had cut off his own lower body without hesitation and attached Butcher's to his body. And now, his nightmare had turned into a reality. That Heaven Khan had not yet died. He had lived on and now he was coming for his lower body. The corners of Grand Shaman's eyes twitched furiously, and he turned to walk back into the sacred hall. In the hall, there were golden skeletons sitting on the shrines. There were human-shaped bones and there were also beast-shaped bones. There were a total of 18 shrines and 17 of them had golden skeletons in them. On the 18th shrine, there was a skin and bones elder with a messy appearance sitting on it as if he was dead. Grandmaster, Heaven Khan is here. Grand Shaman leaned on his scepter and knelt down on one knee while lowering his head. That elder who was as thin as a match opened up his sharp eyes and his voice was like an owl. Where's the sacred child of reincarnation, which I asked you to find? Golden sweats built up on Grand Shaman's golden forehead, as he said tartly, I haven't found him yet. That messy elder shouted with a sharp voice, without the sacred child of reincarnation, won't my reincarnation for the past 17 lifetimes be all for naught? I am only half a step from becoming God, half a step. Grand Shaman lowered his head deeply, and didn't dare to say a word. That messy elder said sternly, with me around, Heaven Knife won't dare to make things difficult for you, but I won't easily exhaust my life to help you. Return his lower body to him, and immediately find the sacred child of reincarnation for me. Grand Shaman was startled and suddenly, a flash passed his waist. It was too late for him to defend against. Grand Shaman kept silent for a moment before opening his mouth again. Junior brother Gyatso, come in. A shaman king heard him and immediately came into the sacred hall before bowing. Grand Shaman, what's the matter? Grand Shaman picked up the scepter and poked through his head. He then severed his lower body and attached it to his own body. Without a ripple on his expression, he bowed and said, Grandmaster, disciple ask to be excused. That messy elder closed his eyes. If you can't find the sacred child of reincarnation, you know the consequences. Grand Shaman bowed and retreated out of the sacred hall with Butcher's lower body. When he walked out of the sacred hall, crunching sounds came from inside the hall, as if there was something eating Shaman King Gyatso's body. Grand Shaman's eyes twitched and a sharp pain came from his waist. He had roughly attached Shaman King Gyatso's body to his and used his magic power to connect them together. However, their flesh, as well as their bones, tendons, meridians, channels, essence, chi, and blood were not connected to each other. He would have to use secret medicine to fuse them together, and turned Gyatso's body into his own body. Ever since he attained Butcher's body, he had thought he could finally advance one more step in his lifetime. Never would he had expected Butcher to be still alive and come look him up. Furthermore, since Grandmaster's corporeal body had withered, he didn't dare to engage in a life and death struggle against Butcher, making him have no choice but to give up Butcher's lower body. Even though Shaman King Gyatso wasn't weak, he still couldn't be compared to Grand Shaman's previous body. If he wanted to cultivate back to his previous realm, he didn't know how long he would have to spend. Grand Shaman bore the pain and brought Butcher's lower body down the mountain. Qin Mu had already come up the mountain along with Butcher, and blind, thus they met halfway up the mountain. Grand Shaman placed down Butcher's lower body and greeted, Heaven Khan. Butcher looked at his lower body and then looked at Grand Shaman's waist and shook his head, why bother? I still have to thank you for nurturing my corporeal body for over 200 years and not letting it die. The corners of Grand Shaman's eyes twitched twice. Qin Mu took out that golden lower body and said, Grand Shaman, I'll return your body to you, there's no point in me keeping it. The muscles of Grand Shaman's face twitched as he replied hoarsely, I have no use for it. You can refine it into a treasure. Qin Mu asked in goodwill, I see that your body isn't attached properly. I'm proficient in the art of healing, if Grand Shaman can trust me, I can help you attach it properly. You want to take the chance to harm me? Grand Shaman sneered and brought his lower body to leave. Qin Mu shook his head and sighed, all doctors treat patients like their children. I had planned to use his body as warm-up before helping Grandpa Butcher reattach his body. Butcher smiled, I trust in your medical expertise. If we could go back to find apothecary, and let him do it personally, it would be even better. However, it would take too long to return to Great Ruins. He suddenly shouted, Old fellow, are you still alive? His loud voice reverberated throughout the entire mountain. An ancient and sharp voice came from Roland's golden palace, Don't worry, if Heaven Khan isn't dead yet, how would I be dead? This old ghost is actually still alive. Butcher laughed coldly, I'll make you die sooner or later. Let's go. Qin Mu carried Butcher's lower body, and the three of them went down the mountain. Blind turned back to have a look at the mountain, and seemed to be deep in his thoughts. That person inside is very strong. Butcher let out a sigh and smiled, I reckon I'm not his opponent without my lower body. That's why you have to accompany me here to deal with him. This old fellow has reincarnated 17 times, and lived through 18 lifetimes. His lifespan has probably hit 10,000 years, yet he still doesn't die. I had fought him a few times and is very powerful. Qin Mu cried out, lived through 18 lifetimes. A lifespan of 10,000 years. How is this possible? How is it not possible? You should have seen gods and devils who have lived much longer than 10,000 years in Great Ruins, am I right? Actually, there are many scary things in this world. However, you are still young now and can't come into contact with these kinds of existences. Butcher continued, that old thing may not be a devil or god, but he isn't far from them. He knows a lot about the past and many secrets. If he wasn't an enemy, I wouldn't have stood against him. Blind nodded his head, there are indeed some terrifying existences. For example, my eyes. He shook his head and didn't say any more. Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly. Blind's eyes were dug out by someone, but Blind had never told people who exactly did it. What was the secret behind this? When they left Roland's golden palace and regrouped with Ling Yuxiu, they went to a barbarian city on the prairie. Qin Mu bought a few medicinal ingredients in the city, and took out a huge cauldron from his sack. Grandpa Butcher, I would have to boil your lower body first to remove the blood of Grand Shaman, and the shaman poison within it. He poured a huge jar of water into the cauldron and placed the medicinal ingredients into the water one by one. When the water started boiling and gave off medicinal fragrance, he then placed Butcher's body into the water. Hu Linger was worried, would it be cooked? Blind beamed and said, when you smell the fragrance of meat, it would be cooked. Butcher retorted angrily, my body can't even die after getting severed by a god, so how would it be cooked from just a pot of boiling water? After boiling it for some time, Qin Mu observed the color of the medicinal water, and opened up a medicine goblet to pinch out a few black and red toads that were dried up. They were all the same size of a fingernail, and they got scattered into the cauldron. The toads were already dried up, but when they entered the water, they were revived and darted around in the boiling water, absorbing the shaman poison. Not long later, the few toads died from poisoning. Qin Mu changed another cauldron of water, and followed the same steps again, for 9 times, to refine the shaman poison out completely. He saw the blood in Butcher's lower body regaining its red color, and his blood came circulated in his blood vessels automatically, as though it was alive. Qin Mu boiled another cauldron of water, and changed over a dozen medicinal ingredients, to excite the activity of his flesh and blood all the way until late at night. Ling Yuxiu and the little fox had already fallen asleep. The green bull had also gone to sleep while Blind was sitting on the floor, snoozing as he leaned on his bamboo cane. Only Qin Mu and Butcher were still guarding beside the cauldron. Qin Mu pulled out his junior protector sword and passed it to Butcher. "Grandpa Butcher, I am unable to cut your body, so you would have to do it yourself. You have to cut away the flesh membrane, which has grown over your upper body. There's no need to use your sword. I will use my knife." Butcher pulled out his pig slaughtering knife, and gritted his teeth, as he gave a slice, and sliced off the flesh membrane, which had grown over his wounds. His cultivation was strong, therefore, he was able to use his vital qi immediately to seal his wounds and not let them bleed. Qin Mu pulled out the lower body from the cauldron. The wound on the lower body was still fresh, so he had no need to slice it. Qin Mu took out jade bottles and carefully smeared the dragon's saliva on the cross-sections of the upper and lower body. The moment he smeared the dragon's saliva, he could see flesh sprouting out rapidly, as though they were small red worms wiggling non-stop. He didn't connect the 2 sections of the body immediately, and had instead refined his vital qi into threads to pick out all the tendons and nerves to reconnect them first. The vital qi threads on his palm increased in number as they connected every flesh, every membrane, the intestines, the spines, and gradually fused the body together. However, the skin at the waist had yet to grow out. Qin Mu finally applied some dragon's saliva on his wound, and the skin also grew back naturally, closing up the wound. He raised his spirits and carried Butcher up, and placed him in the medicinal cauldron. He placed the last packet of medicinal ingredients into the cauldron and brought the water to a simmer. In the cauldron, Butcher leaned his arms by the side and suddenly said, "Mua, thanks for all the hard work." Qin Mu shook his head and smiled. "I had learned the art of healing from Grandpa Apothecary for so many years, and all my skills are taught by Grandpa Apothecary. It can't be considered hard. I hope you won't have a messy reputation like Apothecary did." The water slowly came to a boil and Butcher let out a mouthful of white mist. "That's right. I kept seeing you take things out from that little cloth sack. Even this cauldron was taken out from the sack. There's something weird with your sack. Let me have a look." Qin Mu handed over that sack and said, "I picked up this sack in Roland's Golden Palace. I don't know how, but there's an area of 1 acre in the sack, so I have used it to store items." Butcher opened the sack and took a look inside before giving a weird expression. "Mua, it seems like you have picked up quite a lot of items from the treasury of Roland's Golden Palace." Qin Mu's face turned slightly red. "You can learn from Cripple, but you cannot be addicted." Butcher sighed. "Actually, we all have our own bad habits in the village. Cripple likes to steal, Apothecary frequently poisons people and flirts everywhere. As for me, I was too arrogant in the past and raised my knives against the heavens. Blind is supercilious and frivolous, Deaf is too proud, Mute has his own way of thinking and tells no one about it. Don't talk about village chief, acting like he's a profound mystery, and Granny is a troublemaker. I'm scared that you learned all our bad points." Qin Mu said solemnly, "Don't worry, Grandpa Butcher. Ever since I was out from the village, I have yet created trouble. Patriarch is very pleased with me." "In that case, that's good. You can create trouble, but you will need to be able to settle it." Butcher shook the sack and smiled. "I have seen this sack before, and it's called Dao Tai sack, and it's made out of Taotia's skin. There should be a pureblood Dao Tai in great ruins, and if our villagers take it on together, we might be able to defeat it. The skin used to make this Dao Tai sack isn't from a pureblood Dao Tai, but its lineage could be considered extremely high. The Dao Tai sack I saw in the past has only 10 feet in diameter, and not many things can be put inside. It should have been made out of the skin of a strange beast, who has the Taotia's bloodline." "So I see." Qin Mu was astonished and immediately asked, I have seen some houses that don't look big from the outside yet have an enormous space inside. How did this happen? That's simple. By grinding the bones of strange beasts that have the Taotier's bloodline and mix it into the cement, mixing it into the paint is fine as well. In this way, the internal space would become bigger. Butcher said, Dao Tai is a divine beast, a kind of dragon. This divine beast only eat and don't shit, therefore the space in its stomach is very wide. Its skin would be used to create Dao Tai sack, while its bones would be used to build the house. There are many ways to use it, however, there are two little pureblood ones. Qin Mu stayed at his side and they both chit-chat, until Qin Mu fell asleep without knowing. When he woke up, he realized that the fire under the cauldron had extinguished. He was about to rekindle the fire when Butcher's voice sounded out from the side, Mua, there's no need for that. I feel that there are no major problems with my body now. Qin Mu immediately looked back and saw Butcher had already dressed up. He wore a new pant, which was the one Qin Mu had made earlier, after buying some fabric, while he was getting the medicinal ingredients. This elder wore a loose Chinese gown on his upper body, and the messy beard stubbles were all cleanly shaved, making him look refreshed. Butcher looked at him up and down and nodded his head repeatedly, you have already grown up. We helped you in the past and now you can already help us. That's good, that's good. Blind's voice came from outside, the one that slaughters pigs. If you continue talking, you won't be able to leave. Your disciple has already caught up. Butcher walked out and said, there's a hand bone of a god in your Dao Tai sack, which I will be keeping for you. You can't bring this thing around with you, that god is still alive. If you take it with you, it will just bring you disaster. Qin Mu was shocked, the owner of the hand bone is still alive. I chopped it off back then from the heavens, so of course he's still alive. Butcher and Blind walked in a line and gradually went further away. Even though their footsteps were slow, their speed was very fast. Butcher's voice came from the distance, this was the hand I exchanged my lower body for. However, the divine flesh on it seems to have been stripped off and turned into spirit pills for consumption, thus only the bones are left. Mua, remember to come back to the village to celebrate the new year. Blind's voice also came from afar. Qin Mu saw them off and gave a smile. He waved towards the shadow of their backs. I will definitely be back for New Year. Blind seemed to see him waving and raised his arms to wave back, without even turning back his head. Grandpa Blind sure is powerful. Qin Mu exclaimed, to be able to see so clearly despite being so far. Not long later, a massive voice came from far away, and echoed through the skies of the prairie, Junior Brother Qin, Brother Qin, Qin. Qin Mu heard that it was Chancellor Ba Shan's voice and immediately shouted, I'm over here. That voice still continued to shout, Imperial Academician Qin, Academician Qin, Qin. Qin Mu replied again, yet Chancellor Ba Shan's voice was still calling out from afar, and he came to a realization, Chancellor Ba Shan is probably still a few hundred miles away from here. His voice is able to reach here, but my voice can't reach him. Ling Yuxia woke up and immediately said, Cowherd, let me do it. When she finished saying, she waved her hand and released a flame divine art, shooting a fireball into the sky which exploded with surging heat waves. Qin Mu praised that she was clever in his heart and smiled, it's useless, he is still a few hundred miles away from here so he can't see it. Hu Linger and the Green Bull also woke up. The Green Bull looked around and couldn't find Butcher and Blind. He asked, where's old master? They've left. Qin Mu still heard Chancellor Ba Shan shouting to him in all kinds of manner and sighed. Chancellor Ba Shan's vocals sure are huge, and he really could talk. It was very hard to imagine how such a rough man could be able to be so talkative. Qin Mu said, let us go to the direction of the borders. If Chancellor Ba Shan can't find us, he will definitely head there. The Green Bull showed his true form, and Qin Mu brought Hu Linger up the bull's back. Ling Yuxiu also jumped up. The Green Bull took a step and sprinted towards the borders. Qin Mu looked at the girl beside him and asked, have your injuries healed? Ling Yuxiu nodded her head, even the scar is gone. Look, I had a cut on my waist originally and it's now completely healed. She pulled up her clothes and revealed her waist while turning to the side, right here. Her skin was very exquisite, and her waist was also very white. She probably hadn't tanned by the sun before. Qin Mu's skin was originally darker, as he frequently swam naked in surging river during summer, exposing himself to the hot sun. Sometimes he even got pursued relentlessly by the huge fish monsters that were on his tail. Now that he had come to Imperial College, Qin Mu had no more chances to run around naked, so his skin had gradually lightened up. However, when compared to Ling Yuxiu, Qin Mu was still slightly darker. Qin Mu stretched out a finger and touched the location of her wound. He could still feel a bump on the wound. Ling Yuxiu felt ticklish and giggled. Qin Mu said, "Don't move. I'll help you dissolve the clotted blood, otherwise, there will always be a bump here." Ling Yuxiu immediately stopped moving and held her shirt up. Qin Mu transformed his vital qi into green dragon vital qi, and threads of vital qi came out from the tip of his finger, carefully piercing into her skin to dissolve the clotted blood. Ling Yuxiu only felt numb and ticklish, which made her giggle again. "You are making me ticklish. There's a ticklish spot there." Qin Mu didn't raise his head and said, "Bear with it. It won't be ticklish in a moment, and it would feel slightly painful." After a moment, Ling Yuxiu felt a needle-piercing pain and immediately looked down. She only saw Qin Mu using his nature fragrance silk's handkerchief to wipe away the clotted blood that was flowing out. When the clotted blood had flowed out, there was no trace left on the skin. Ling Yuxiu pulled down her shirt and blinked her eyes innocently. "Divine Physician, there are still some wounds on my back. I don't know if they will leave scars." Hu Linga replied loud and clearly, "I smeared the wounds on your back, and before I applied the medicine, I had already squeezed out the clotted blood for you. They won't leave any scars." Ling Yuxiu looked at her, and the little fox was smiling very sweetly, and very fake. HMPH, Vixen. Both of them thought at the same time. Hu Linga blinked her eyes. "Sister Yuxiu, how old are you this year?" Ling Yuxiu's gaze flickered and asked, "How old are you?" "I'm 12. I'm 16. You're 1 year older than young master." Ling Yuxiu had a feeling that a little fox had pounced on her and gave her 2 stabs in her aching heart. This fox may be a little thing, but her moves were ruthless and unexpected, making her unable to defend herself. She had long noticed that this little fox harbored evil designs. Making her way onto Qin Mu's bed every night and acting as if she didn't know anything, she had a reserved manner and acted shamelessly cute. And now, this little hussy had already started to go on the offense. Ling Yuxiu may be unconstrained and looked like a big-hearted girl that was outspoken and straightforward unlike other girls, but she also had her own meticulous side. She smiled sweetly. "Sister Ling, the furs on your paws are really soft. Why didn't you try to turn them into human hands?" Hu Linga yawned and squinted her eyes. "Young master likes it this way." "Sister Ling, why haven't you shapeshifted?" "Young master likes it this way. Look at your eyes, which are different from ours." "Young master likes it this way." Ling Yuxiu had lost the battle. This little fox had an impenetrable defense, which struck back after blocking. It was like Great Thunderclap Monastery's divine art, flowers in the mirror which could reflect other people's attacks back at them. Whom did this vixen learn from? Ling Yuxiu wasn't her opponent and was slightly angry. Hu Linga was proud of herself. In Rain Listening Pavilion, she had consulted the maidens of Rain Listening Pavilion regarding the techniques of this field. Ling Yuxiu suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was actually being jealous of a little fox. She had truly lost the awe of the imperial family. She had the figure, and even though Qin Mu was slightly blind to say that she was slightly chubby, her appearance wasn't bad. No matter how incisive the little fox's moves were, she had not shapeshifted. Victory was already firmly grasped in her hands, and there was completely no need to be jealous of that vixen. Before they had yet to reach the borders, Chancellor Ba Shan had finally caught up with them. When he saw Butcher had already left, this strong man couldn't help falling into a daze, crying loudly and cursing Heaven Knife at the same time. Qin Mu consoled him for a moment and said, "It's not that he doesn't miss you, he just dislikes your nagging, therefore, he went first." Actually, Grandpa Butcher cares about you very much. When he heard you were in danger, he was the first one to rush over. Stop crying, we're reaching the border station. How can Marshal Khan be seen sobbing like a little girl? Chancellor Ba Shan wiped his tears and poured out his woes to him. He started telling Qin Mu about everything and anything. Ever since he was a child, he had to stand still as punishment for wetting his bed. Every single detail of his cultivation, helping Heaven Knife wash his undergarments, how Heaven Knife had brought him to steal duck soup from the neighboring village. Qin Mu looked at Ling Yuxia pleadingly, and she shrugged her shoulders helplessly. Imperial College. The young patriarch packed his stuff silently into a small bundle, and threw his ribbon attached to the official seal on the floor. Hanging up his official seal on the door of the Hall of Supreme Learning, he took a last glance at Imperial College and gave a smile. Elder of Discipline walked over in quick steps and carried a bamboo basket that was not very big. In the bamboo basket were an umbrella and items like scrolls and books. Let's go, there's no need to alarm the others, the young patriarch smiled. The two of them walked down the mountain without alarming anyone, and when they reached the bottom of the mountain, that dragon Qilin immediately stood up and wagged his tail. My life is coming to an end and I can't bring you along anymore. The youth caressed the head of this dragon Qilin and shook his head. If you follow me, you'll just be waiting for me to die of old age. Little friend, you're free. Catcher. The chain on the dragon's Qilin's neck opened up, and this dragon Qilin looked at him blankly. He shook his head and asked, Old master, if I can't follow you, where can I go? You were originally living freely, so where can you not go? The young patriarch waved his hand and looked at the Imperial College, which he had built up personally, having a hint of reluctance in his eyes. He suddenly turned around and left, spending my last years here, yet I'm leaving here today. I do not wish to die of old age in Imperial College. The old and the young headed out of the capital city, and once they were out of the city, the young patriarch asked Elder of Discipline to stay back, as he walked towards that person by himself. Dao friend. Imperial Preceptor greeted. Are you going to leave just like this? Are you not going to ask for your dismissal from the Emperor? The young patriarch smiled. When I assumed the position effortlessly, I had not come for the Emperor, so why do I have to leave for the Emperor? I'm very happy that you had invited me here, and have come to send me off now. Eternal peace. Imperial Preceptor sighed ruefully. Dao friend can already face death in the eyes. I wonder how many years do I have to cultivate to be able to reach the height of your frame of mind. Let me send you off. Both of them walked forward side by side, while Elder of Discipline followed not far behind. Eternal peace. Imperial Preceptor said, when I knew you were leaving, I felt a big piece missing from my heart. No one knows me better than you in this world. Without you, I have one less person I can talk to. The young patriarch said, you have great ambitions and your future is paved with difficulties. The path you are taking is filled with bumps and there's nothing I can teach you. You will have to rely on yourself. Eternal peace. Imperial Preceptor stopped. Back then I wanted to acknowledge you as my teacher. Why didn't you accept me? The young patriarch said calmly, I knew you would be better than me and have higher attainments than me in the future, so I don't deserve to be your teacher, therefore, I can't take you in as my disciple. The things you have thought of were things I had never thought before. They are things I would never have accomplished in my entire lifetime. I have also learned many things from you, therefore, I can't be your teacher. Eternal peace. Imperial Preceptor took a stride forward and followed him. I'm still slightly perplexed and exhausted lately. Say, is the path we are taking an orthodox one? In the eyes of the so-called orthodox path, the road we are going down on isn't the orthodox path. The young patriarch stopped and looked at him in the eyes. We established primary schools, colleges, an imperial college to reform the sects, and gathered the teachings of numerous sects to teach scholars, to treat commoners and disciples of sects as equals. In their eyes, we are straying from the orthodox path and are committing an unforgivable sin. However, in our eyes, this is the orthodox path. Don't care what the others say, what's right is right. Don't let the furious barkings of others turn it wrong. This video will end here.